have started this financial journey. Already, I have received comments and messages of both support and criticism, which I expected. It encourages me, it inspires me, and it gives me a lot to think about, so thank you for that. Now, when you make goals, you've kind of got to think broad and narrow. First off, you think of this idea, this goal, this vision of what you want when everything is said and done. That is the big picture, that is the broad. But there are a lot of little gears that turn to form that big picture. In agreement with, and in some cases in spite of some advice and opinions that have been shared with me, an emergency fund is a non-negotiable for Johnny and I. Let me repeat that. An emergency fund is our non-negotiable. And here's why. It is our base, it is our foundation. Our big picture, our current goal, is to one day buy a house. That goal is a long way off right now because we have set some personal rules and guidelines that we would like to have accomplished before we take that big leap. That is a giant investment and we want to feel good about it. One of those being paying off all of our current debt. We have a lot of it. Now, when I say debt, I do not mean bills for reoccurring services. I mean financial debt that has built up for services that have long passed. Purchases that we have made that we didn't have the money for at that time. This includes credit cards, personal loans, student loans, and yes, even my car. In my last video, I talked about setbacks, and setbacks are always going to happen. That is why we need an emergency fund. As we are paying off debt and something comes up, we want to be able to have cash readily available to us for that reason. We do not want to turn to credit. We are trying to eliminate our current debt. That would just be a step backwards. What we want to have in place is an emergency fund. Johnny and I have discussed this and we have agreed that it's good for us both to have $500 in savings for emergencies, which means together as a unit we would have $1,000. Now, as I have mentioned before, you do not want to get stuck. Before you are married, you do not want to combine your finances. You can combine your decision making and you can make plans and goals together, but you do not want to combine things because things get messy if you were to part ways. If Johnny and I were to ever part ways, I would no longer have half of that emergency fund. So at that point, I would continue making minimum payments on my debt, but I would not be paying any extra until I got my own emergency fund up to $1,000 because I have no one to lean back on at that point. So that would be very important and critical to me. But as of now, we have a bright future. So we both have decided to do $500 each. You may agree or disagree. I'm sure I'm gonna hear about it either way. Now, we have our big picture, we have little goals along the way. The issue going forward from here, we do not have a lot of extra disposable income. We're both so amped and excited. We wanna build up our savings and we wanna pay off all this stuff really quick. But realistically, it can't happen just like that because we want it to. It takes hard work and a lot of discipline and self-control. We only have one car and I use it primarily. So as a flight attendant, when I am not away on a trip, I take Johnny to work and I pick him up from work. It saves us money on buying a car that we can't afford right now. When I am on a trip, I still take my car. I take it with me to the airport and it's there for me to drive home when I get off my trip. In those situations, if I'm away during a weekday, Johnny usually would take an Uber, which, as you know, racks up some expenses. To eliminate some of those expenses, Johnny has decided to bike to and from work. It's not only helping with our money situation, but is helping with his physical fitness. So now he actually even does it when I'm home. Imagine that. Johnny is doing some things on his part to help contribute as well. And I've just been sitting here thinking, what can I do to help us earn a little bit of money? I can't necessarily take on a part-time job. A lot of flight attendants do that, but it's usually because they had connections beforehand, people that they knew and had rapport with that were able to work with their schedules. Seeing as how I moved to Miami for this job, when I accepted this position, I do not have that type of rapport with anyone down here. So I've been racking my brain thinking about what I can do. Every other month I'm on reserve, which means I'm on call. I want to be able to find something that I can do in my own time, on my own hours, whenever I have a little bit of free time. And then if I get called, I can just get up and go. I thought about dog walking, I thought about dog babysitting, some online customer service stuff, but all of those options that I've thought of are requiring a little bit more commitment than I'm able to give or are just not plausible with our living situation. So I have been thinking about driving for Uber or Lyft. Lyft right now is offering a $750 bonus if you can drive a certain amount of rides within a certain amount of days, and I think that's awesome. But both companies have an application process, so that's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna see how it works out. All right, so quick update. I have now tried to apply to both Uber and Lyft, and there were some complications because I have not switched over my driver's license and insurance to the state of Florida yet. It costs a lot more money, so those are things I need to do first. There's nothing else you can do, right? Until then, if you have any ideas or suggestions of how to make a little extra more moolah, I would be more than open to your ideas. We are enjoying our life, we are enjoying our time together, and we are going to update you so soon.